Sufi poet said, be the hole in the flute that the Christ breath breathes through. And is there really any other purpose or goal than just to be here and allow the divine music to play in us? And in order for that to happen, just being very, very present, being here and now. And because most of the blocks to us achieving our goals are simply past thoughts, concepts, and beliefs that we have about ourselves. And our thoughts really are just that, they're nothingness. And they're all based just on our beliefs. And no two people look at the world the same way. And so what is right, what is wrong? And that's where the separation comes in, when in fact we're all one, and that everyone is simply reflecting back to us an aspect of our own consciousness, and that they are our gift to us, but we sometimes label them our enemy, when in fact they've been delivered to our doorstep gift wrapped in whatever form they're showing up as. And when we can really embrace that everything is happening for us rather than to us, then there's a lot of freedom in that. And so even with what you were going through, Donna, with your daughter's challenges, you know, embracing that as her gift, your gift, even though it may have not seemed that that was much of a gift at the time. And depending on where she's even at with that at the present time, because it's really all about just removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. Love, substitute love for God. So removing the blocks to the awareness of God's presence in our life. And sometimes it takes something that's labeled more on the line of a challenge to help us to see that that's just simply a block that's keeping us from experiencing who we really are as the Christ. And, you know, and loving your neighbor as yourself, first of all, we need to love ourselves. And that's one of those things that can block us from achieving our goals, because I just sort of, you know, as I was just even pondering this evening prior to getting on to the call, you know, we sometimes feel we're not good enough. We don't trust the decisions we make. We're believing the universe is an unfriendly place. You know, many, many people are perceiving things, the world, their country, their politicians, as being unfriendly. And whatever we're holding in our consciousness, that will be our truth. And that's exactly what will continue to reflect back to us. And, you know, and some of the other things on that list, it's not okay to make mistakes. There are no mistakes. How freeing is that? There are no mistakes, but one of the things that prevents us from really moving forward in life is this belief that, you know, if I do this and I make a mistake, I'm going to be embarrassed. People are going to think less of me. And so it's that whole aspect of really stepping out of a life of people pleasing. How much of our life do we spend in people pleasing? And so totally withdrawing that. That's all ego generated. When we're seeking to, you know, receive love and acceptance from outside of ourselves. It's all within here. And it all has to start with us. And, you know, others won't like me if I'm successful, right? They'll be jealous of me if I'm successful. I don't deserve to be happy. How many people really, really have that belief that I don't deserve this? And they're carrying this huge thing of guilt around about choices they've made in the past, which were all perfect, regardless of what they were. And they couldn't have been any different than what they were. And and then there's that whole aspect of time. I don't have time to do the things that I want. Time and space is that great illusion. It's always here and it's always now. I was visiting just before COVID. I went to Hawaii and I went to a Hindu temple there, and I bought this little plaque that has stood by me since then beautifully. And on it says, "I'm all right right now." And it's always right now. And the only time that it's not all right, and it always is, but when we step into the painful past or the fearful future, and both of those are in the realm of thought, and there's no reality to thought. It's the story that we've given something, and it's just a story. Nothing more than that. And who would you be without that story about yourself or somebody else? And, even that, we have the saying, when one door closes, another one opens. But a lot of people think, well, when one door closes, there's another one right behind it that's going to close on me too. Because they've gone down that path of just being either a victim to circumstances. And while we're a victim to anything, that will continue to show up in our life in the form of our experiences, or other people will show up to prove it to us, until we get that they're just there to help us to remove the block to the awareness of who we really are. And so let me just sort of take just a breath and tune in with you and just ask, as I was sharing any of those things, what sort of thoughts were coming to your mind? Anything at all?
Well, in my case, Fern, I absolutely agree with every single one of the premises that you stepped forward with. I've had them as guiding principles in various books. Some I remember a little bit more than others. I absolutely, this is one I've never heard before, and I think I'm going to print it out for myself. I'm always all right right now. And
I'm all right right now, and it's always right now.
I am all right right now, and it is always
right now. Now, the plaque doesn't say that second part. It only says, "I'm all right right now," but it is always right now. And, people will say, one of my favorite teachers is Byron Katie. I don't know if you followed her too much, but I love the work that she does, because Byron Katie. And people call her Katie, and her experience in life was just absolutely profound in the journey that she's been on, and what she calls the work came to her. She says all suffering comes from an unquestioned mind. When we just allow the thoughts to rule our life, and without examining the thought. And so she really encourages you, because we do it anyway, even though we're told not to judge, right? We're constantly judging. And so she says, get right into it. Judge your neighbor. Judge your neighbor, really, really judge them. And so, there could be a lot of judgment around a politician, right? There could be a lot of judgment around vaccinations. There could be a lot of judgment around the school system, around how an individual should behave, especially behave towards you. And, so she says, really get clear on the judgment. Really write it down. And she says it's a meditative process, because all of the answers are already within us. Everything we need to know, we're not going to find that answer outside of us. And yes, there certainly are messengers and there are wonderful teachers that we can get instruction from, but the actual answer to our freedom we will find within. And so in that judging, and so I had my sister just moved, and she's older than I am too, and she just moved into an assisted living building, and I had her staying with me for a couple of weeks prior to her moving in. And her husband, the reason she had to move into assisted living care is her husband died suddenly from a fall down the stairs. He fell down the stairs, died the same day.
Oh.
And anyway, he was her main caregiver, even though she is much, well, now this is a judgment. This is an example of a judgment. My judgment is she's much more capable of doing a lot of things for herself that she's saying the word, I can't.
Wow.
And now that's a judgment, right? So if I'm going to get really clear on this, I'm going to judge my neighbor. In this case, this is my sister. And so I in my mind might say my sister should be doing more. And so according to Byron Katie, she would say, then she said, judge your neighbor, write it down, ask 4 questions and turn it around. So the 4 questions are, is that true that your sister should be doing more? Well, I have no idea. I'm not my sister, am I? But I've made a pretty blatant judgment there about her capabilities. I don't know. So I'm going to say, no, it's not true. But the second question, if I had said yes to that, and then yes or no isn't right or wrong, they're just answers. But then she says, is that absolutely true? So maybe I might still think that she should do more for herself. But is that absolutely true? No. If she's not doing more for herself, then what she's doing is exactly what she should be doing. Right? Well, how do I know that? Because that's what she's doing. And because otherwise we end up in resistance, don't we? So that scripture of resist not evil, whatever we're resisting is going to persist in our life. It's going to continue to persist till we stop resisting it. And we can be absolutely sure of that. And so my sister should be doing more for herself. So I've done this inner inquiry now. I've gone into a type of a meditation. Is that absolutely true? She should be doing more for herself. So no. So how would I be, or how might I treat her differently if I didn't believe that, if I wasn't holding on to that thought? Well, I might be more compassionate with her. I might be more patient with her. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And how would I feel? How would that change my, and so, and how would that change me in other ways, right? If I wasn't holding on to that thought? Well, I would certainly be free of that judgment. And then she says, turn it around, ask the 4 questions and turn it around. In turning that around, I should do more for myself than what I do. Right? It's not about her. She's just the messenger in my life. Everyone is the messenger in my life, bringing me the message. It's never about them. It's always about me. I have just outpictured that in my consciousness at whatever level of consciousness I'm operating at in that holy instant. And so I should be doing more for myself. I should maybe be doing more for my sister, right? Not my sister should be doing more for herself. If she does, she does. If she doesn't, she doesn't. There's 3 kinds of business: my business, their business, or her business in this case, and God's business. And when we get into other people's business is when we end up in judgment. But the good thing is that once we recognize that we've gone into judgment, then we can really just turn it around and take full responsibility for whatever is showing up out there as a message to where in our life we need to, or would be beneficial for us to make some changes, to have some greater awareness. And my experience is that the things that show up out there usually are exaggerated, right? and they're in our face, and they're exaggerated in our face for a reason, because otherwise we wouldn't notice it. Right? So it has to get our attention once we're awake. Once we're awake and taking 100% responsibility for everything that's happening in our life, because we're either part of the problem or we're either part of the solution or we're part of the problem. And I think it was Gandhi who said, be the peace you want to see in the world. And so if you're judging violence, gun violence, gangs, school shootings, whatever, then one of the things that really caught my attention that Byron talked about was, and she referred to, some incidents that were, the one incident was her grandmother, the woman who she was interviewing, her grandmother had been raped by the soldiers in this particular war. It doesn't even matter what the whole background was, and how bitterly this woman, how bitter she was that her grandmother had had that experience. And Katie, she goes by Katie said to her, how many times have you relived her being raped? And she said, thousands, right? She's thought of it 1,000 times. So your grandmother was raped once, maybe a dozen times, right? We don't know, but you've raped her 1,000 times in your mind. And if our mind is all there really is, and we're putting that out into the collective consciousness, then who's the rapist?
Wow. That's how powerful our thoughts are.
It's very powerful.
Yeah.
We're transmitting and receiving, transmitting and receiving, transmitting and receiving. Are we transmitting love, acceptance, compassion, harmony, peace? Or are we transmitting hatred, judgment, fear? Because it's all energy, and it's all in that collective consciousness. And it's like tuning into a radio dial. What radio dial are you going to tune into? So if you're tuned into fear, or you're being the messenger of fear, then you're just going to continue to receive more things to be fearful about. And so whatever the atrocity is, right, whatever that is, whether you see somebody that's being mean to an animal, right, and you repeat that over and over and over again in your mind, that person kicked the animal once. How many times did you kick it? If it's all thought. And so as we become more and more in tune with what our thoughts are, what are we holding in our consciousness? And without, beating ourselves up about it, no self-flagellation. It's all just about becoming aware of what is. And Katie has a number of books, but the one book that really intrigued me, the title of it, I did get it on Audible, but it's Loving What Is. Do we really love what is? Can we love the war in the Ukraine? Can we love mask mandates? Can we love forced vaccinations? Loving what is. Because again, if we're not, we're in that place of resistance again. And what is exactly what it's supposed to be. And how do we know that? Because it is. That's reality. And it is until it's not. And then whatever that is then is what is. But love what is. And so very few principles, if we can love what is, know that we're all right now, and give thanks for all things, that everything is happening for us, not to us. Those three things can guide our life into a life of peace if we would embrace them really fully. because then we're never a victim. We're always abundant. So if we have the goal is to have more money, really, do we need more money? In this moment, in this very moment, do you need more money? And that I'm just throwing it out. You don't have to answer the question.
It's 8 o'clock.
What's
Oh,
that?
That's my map telling me what time it is. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. And yeah, they talk back, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't remember where I was there, but bring me back on track. Help me out here.
Do we really need more money?
Yeah, right. That's right. Because that would be if we're setting goals here, excuse me, goodness, she knows. If we're setting goals, right? My goal is to have more money. Really? Do you really need more money? That's a thought. It's only a thought. I need more food. I need to lose weight. I need to gain weight. Is that true? Is it absolutely true? Do you really need to be a different weight than you are right now? No, the weight that you're at right now is absolutely perfect. And how do we know that? Because that's the weight you are right now. And nobody right now, none of the three of us right now needs any more money than we have right in this moment. The only way we might think we need more money is if we jump into the future. How am I going to pay my mortgage, my rent, my car insurance, my medical bills? But it's not right now, is it?
Mm-hmm.
We've projected into the fearful future. We've lost touch with this present moment where we're all right now.
And then how do goals fit into this?
Well, from my perspective, that's why it's a little bit of a challenge because I don't have any goals. My only goal is for me, myself personally, right? My only goal is to be here and now and to be an instrument for God's love.
And you are clearly aligned with your goals.
It basically takes, it's not, there's a scripture that says, narrow is the gate and straight is the way and few there be that enter, or few there be that maybe that stay on that path, because it is a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It is a full-time job. The world of things is very enticing. The world of the news, the world out there can suck you in really, really quickly if you're not watching your mind like a hawk. We can get drawn into the drama, drawn into the illusion of what our senses are telling us. And nothing our senses are telling us is real. It's all perception. And the only problems that we have are perceptual problems. And so if there were more people on the call, I would do more work with goal setting, because if people were signing up for goal setting, then that's why they came. But what I would do is I would remove the blocks to them achieving their goals. And because those blocks are just our thoughts, aren't they? They are nothing more than our thoughts. And our thoughts aren't real. They're an accumulation of our parents' beliefs, our grandparents' beliefs, the world beliefs, things that we have embraced or rejected over our lifetime. But no two people see the world the same way. So what is real? What is real? The only thing that's real is here and now. Everything else, we've overlaid it with a judgment about what enough money is, right? But then we project it again out of the present moment. Or if we become, if we're in any kind of suffering, it's because of some sort of program or thought of the painful past that we're bringing into this pristine present moment, this holy instant where everything is perfect right now, regardless of what's happening. It's perfect. Why? Because it's exactly what's happening. And to think that it's not perfect would be to say, Alice, I think you'd agree that God is not the governor here.
And it's amazing because basically you're reciting the principles of A Course in Miracles.
Many of the things I'm reciting, and one of my favorite teachers is David Hoffmeister. I think you'd love him if you haven't listened to him before. He's an amazing Course in Miracles teacher. So my three main teachers are, well, Course in Miracles teachers, but particularly David Hoffmeister, and Joel Goldsmith, and Byron Katie. They all sort of speak the same language. They just give the message in, or that they tell the same story, but they tell it in just a different format. But it's basically the same message. And whether that would be, that very similar probably to, Mary Baker Eddy's teachings, or Unity Church, or any of those. So I think there's some pretty much all on the same page, that there's only one mind, in infinite expression. And so in that one mind, it all comes back to me. And so if I'm in the world, then I need to be setting goals for the world. Right? If I'm in that material world. And even accepting what is, certainly do what's available through whatever means that you want if you have a health challenge, but accepting what is at the same time. And recognizing when we're going into fear around it, because one of the quotes that I really love from Viktor Frankl, who is a Jewish psychiatrist who spent 3 years in a concentration camp, said, all they could take from us was our ridiculous naked bodies. We're not our body. We're not our thoughts. We are the awareness, the pure consciousness that was never born and never dies. So why would we fear death in any shape or form? We go from one plane to a next. And I believe that the only thing that we take with us is our level of consciousness. And so the only goal worth achieving is God consciousness, the awareness of God's presence as living our life. I live, yet not I. Of myself, I can do no thing. I am no thing, right? You are as God created you, whole, perfect, and complete. And from that whole metaphysical aspect of healing, that is where I believe that that's coming from. When we don't see, nothing has reality other than what we give it power. And simply being okay, there's a lot of peace in being okay with what is. And I think one of the harder things that being okay with is pain. Pain really gets our attention, right? And it can be very consuming. But knowing that we are not that body, and the only, basically, I think it was, I don't know if it was David Hoffmeister said this, that the only illness is mental, all illness is mental illness, because the body of itself can't do anything, right? It's all mind projected.
Fern, you mentioned something a bit ago about, I don't know specifically what you said, but my question is, for people who will be listening to this recording and they are wanting to set goals, or someone says, you would be an amazing teacher you should go back to school and get your certificate. Oh, I could never do that. I'm not smart enough. I'm not engaged enough. I'm not whatever. What would you tell people who have those blocks? And I know, like you said, that they're just blocks that have been fed to us. We've all heard that, but what practical advice would you give to people?
The practical advice, well, and certainly anyone listening to this recording, if they have my contact information, I will do a 15-minute goal setting, removing the blocks to them achieving their goals. And so whatever that goal is, in their life, they are probably inspired to do that. But the only goal really is happiness. And so whatever you're desiring to do, if at the end of the day, you're not going to be happy doing it, then maybe reevaluate the goal. But as you mentioned, so some of the things that would be blocking, using that example, going back to school to be a teacher, it might be, I'm too old. I'm not smart enough. Okay, just those two. I would go back to school, but I'm too old and I'm just not smart enough. And so if we were using Byron Katie's program for that, is that true? Is it true that you're too old? How many people have gone back to school that were much older than the hypothetical you?
I did.
There you go, right?
And
So
you're right.
one of them.
I
And so
said,
we can
"It's
always
not
find
scary."
examples, right? So that's a story. Is it true that you're too old? No. Is it true that you're not smart enough? So give examples of things that you've done and achieved, right? So is it true that you're not smart enough? No. No. And I mean, so you might say yes to that. And there's not a right or wrong answer. It is either a yes or a no to those two questions, right? The two questions that we asked, and there might have been 5 reasons why you felt that you couldn't go back to school. I don't have enough money. Is that true? Is that true? We pretty much everyone that's ever achieved anything, when they want it badly enough, they find a way. That's certainly been my experience in life. I don't think I've ever had enough money to pursue anything that I wanted to do at the time that I wanted to do it, but I did it. And I didn't do it, but because I was committed to that goal, it happened. And so regardless of what was there materially, so do I have enough money? Is it true that I don't have enough money? Well, let's just say that you said yes to that answer, and you even said yes to, is that absolutely true? Then how does that serve you? In fact, let me just get even some of the wording on that. Okay, so who would you be without that thought that you don't have enough money? Well, I would be pursuing my goal, right? And so can you see a reason that's not stressful for holding on to that story? Right? A non-stressful reason for holding on to the story that you don't have enough money. You're not smart enough. You're too old. Right?
And
so
you don't.
Who would you be without that thought? Because remember, it's just a thought. Thoughts are not real. They're thoughts. Who made them real? And how does it make you feel when you attach to the thought that you don't have enough money, you're too old, and you're not smart enough? Doesn't make you feel good. Why would you hold on to a thought? Right? And
Possibly so you don't have to step out and pursue this, as you said.
that's right. There could be other reasons. So, and so this is where inquiry will take you, right? it will lead you to the truth. So if you can, and because then, can you see a reason to continue to keep that thought or that story? Right? That's not stressful. Can you think of a good reason to keep that thought?
Well, as you said earlier, people might not like me, they might resent
Okay,
me.
so then it gets a little bit deeper into the interrogation. So
Mhm.
is it true that people won't like you if you're successful and you've gone back to school when your peers are working at a job that they hate and now you're pursuing a goal that you are just so excited about, right? And that gets back into the people pleasing again, but then it gets into that whole inquiry. But the more you inquire, because the reasons that we come up with initially aren't necessarily the blocks
Mm-hmm.
to us achieving our goal. And in terms of, so for that person, so for me, it's only, I want to be an instrument for the light. And that can be done in whatever profession that we engage in. Doesn't matter what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But the goal is our function, and our goal is happiness. Our function is happiness. Our goal is happiness. So whatever is leading to happiness, why would we do anything if we were going to do it and not be happy doing it? We're throwing away our life, the most precious thing that we have.
Is it because it's what we are accustomed to?
It's
And
all beliefs and stories. And so that's why Katie says all suffering comes from an uninvestigated or an uninquired, unquestioned mind, when we just don't question the thoughts that we have. So this is truly about questioning every thought you have that's holding you back from happiness. Basically, it's just allowing yourself to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. Love, you can substitute the word love with God's presence, with success's presence, right? You remove the blocks. And all the blocks are thoughts, just thoughts. And when you investigate the thought thoroughly and you really go inside, nobody else has the answer. And so if I'm coaching somebody, I'm just helping them to go inside to find the answer that's already within them, the truth that's already within them. Not the lie that is this thought that is based on past perception, right? It's all perception. Every problem is a perceptual problem, period. That comes from A Course in Miracles. Every problem is a perceptual problem. Right? And there isn't anything other than the thought, and then the world manifests from that thought. And so we don't really need to take time in investigating the good feelings, right? The positive thoughts. Let them be. Whether they're real or not, doesn't matter. They bring us joy and happiness. But once we can really get into depth, and so one of the fun things too is even to do in a session, I might do a process called Psyche. Psyche is a way to change limiting beliefs in a matter of minutes, because what happens is, and this just goes to reveal the nothingness of a belief. They're just beliefs, right? Just beliefs. That's all they are. And so in one culture believes one thing, another culture believes another thing, right? They're not, it doesn't mean they're right. Doesn't mean they're wrong, but it's what we label. We're labeling things all the time as good and bad, right and wrong, up and down, light and dark. We're labeling everything. And I was going down a train of thought there and I lost it.
Psyche.
Oh, so yeah, so psyche. So what we get locked in to, let's just say if this is even real, right? So if we got locked into a belief in one hemisphere of our brain, this process called psyche that was developed by a psychologist by the name of Rob Williams, who came from the business world into psychology. And in business, things are happening like this, right? They can't take a long time. But in the world of psychology, people are in consultation for years on end. And he said, no way, I can't handle this, right? I want to be in this field, but I can't handle this. Things have to happen quicker. Anyway, he got this download of how to do this process called psyche, which is simply a way to change limiting beliefs in a matter of minutes, because you move from a left or right hemisphere of holding that belief in the thought field into a whole brain state. And from that whole brain state, you can't look at that in the same way that you did before. It's just the same as saying you're walking in the desert and you have a deathly fear of snakes, but you're really enjoying your walk. And all of a sudden you look down and you see a snake and you jump back and you're in absolute terror. And then the light changes and you realize what you saw was a rope. You can never see that snake as a snake again, now that you know it's a rope. And once you know that that belief or thought you had was not real, you can never look at it the same way as you did before. Now, psyche is a little bit different than that. That's why I like Byron Katie's work, because it's more meditative and truly investigative and gets you to ask some very deep questions. Is this true? Is it absolutely true? Who would you be without this thought? And who are you with this thought, right? Which is even more like it. Who are you with this? Well, I'm fearful. I'm not moving ahead in life. I'm not living my life fully. I'm limited. I'm resentful of others who are achieving things, right? That's how this thought is affecting me. Who would you be without it? Well, I'd be pursuing my joy. So why do we hold on to these thoughts, these erroneous thoughts? They are nothing more than that.
That is a good question. Why do we hold on to them?
Well, because it's partly, and sometimes, and this is from Joe Dispenza's work, he says we literally become addicted to the hormones of stress. And stressful thoughts allow us to maintain our addiction to cortisol. Right. So let's just say you are, and a lot of society today is addicted to stress. And so from Joe Dispenza's perspective, if this was the cell of your body, on your cells, you have receptors for vitamins, minerals, amino acid, hormones. But when we're in stress for long periods of time, then we have more receptors on our cells for cortisol. So now, when that receptor for cortisol is needing its cortisol fix, it sends a message to the brain for cortisol. So in order for the brain to produce cortisol, what does it have to do? It has to be in a state of stress. So we either remember a stressful situation, we create something in the moment, or we imagine something. And then the cell gets its hit of cortisol. And so it's more addictive than heroin. And the trouble is that with cortisol, you don't need a dealer and you don't need any money. You just need a memory. You need to be creative or imaginative.
Right.
And we get very creative in order to get our cortisol fix. But it is just as addictive, more so than heroin. And so we're not prepared. I mean, a lot of this is unconscious, right? So that's why watching your mind like a hawk, that's what we call it, waking up to what's taking place in your consciousness and questioning it. That's why Katie says all suffering is an unquestioned mind, a thought that hasn't been evaluated as true or false. And some of the other processes I use that I've done on these webinars with Alice before is tapping. And tapping is a wonderful way. So if we, okay, so let's pick something that you maybe have a fear around. We don't need to know what it is. Can both of you identify something that you're fearful about?
Yes.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, Alice, how, when you think about that, what's your level of fear? 10 being the greatest.
10.
10. How about you, Donna?
10.
10. Okay, this is beautiful. All right, so let's just go through a tapping, and anybody watching this afterwards can tune into their own fear and do the same tapping sequence that we're going to do and hopefully receive some benefit. But anyway, I'm going to say some words. You don't absolutely have to say words with tapping. A lot of the time the tapping will just do it on its own, but I'm going to say some words, and I'm going to sort of work my dialogue around a lot of the things that Byron Katie uses in her investigation. And so tapping the side of your hand right here on that, right below the tiny finger. And I want to be over this fear. I want to let go of this fearful thought. And I want to know what it would feel like in life not to be carrying this thought. And I want to know clearly what my life would look like if I didn't hold on to this thought underneath the nose. And I will let go of this fearful thought, because it is just that. It's a thought. And I will know that it's not true. And I will choose to embrace freedom instead of this. I will choose peace over this. And I am able here and now to know that I'm all right. And it's always right now. And so this fear that I have is simply a projection into the future, because I'm all right right now, middle finger on the thumb side. And I've always known that this fear is just an illusion, but I have been blinded by the falsity and the fear accompanying the thought. But if I'd taken any time at all to examine this thought, I've always known that I'm all right right now. Side of the face, right about where the arm of my glasses is, both sides. And I always will know that this fearful thought is not real. And that I am all right right now. And I always am all right right now. And whenever this fear comes up, I simply have to ask myself, is it true? Is it absolutely true? And how do I show up in life with this fear? And who would I be without this fear? And am I willing to let go of this thought? And is there any reason that's not stressful to hold on to this thought? And I will let it go and keep tapping. And index finger. And I let go completely. There's nothing at all within this fearful thought that serves me or serves anybody that I know and love. It will simply be projected out into my life. And is this what I want projected onto the screen of my life? Because everything in my life is projected as a result of the thoughts that I'm holding on to. So I let go of all that does not serve me here and now. Keep tapping. And tap, now there's a little groove on the back of the hand right here, tap there. And as you're tapping on that little groove, close your eyes, open your eyes. Now keep your face looking forward, but take your eyes down in one direction, not your face, just your eyes. Look down in one direction, down in the opposite direction. Now make a circle with your eyes in one direction, a circle with your eyes in the opposite direction. Then hum a little tune out loud. So make sure you're humming out loud, and then count to 5 out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hum a little tune again. Then back to the side of the hand. I want to be completely free of this fear. I want to completely know in every fiber of my body that this is not true. And I want to know completely what I would be like if I didn't have this fear. And I will, under the nose, completely let go of this fearful thought, this perception, this story that I'm telling, because I do not want it projected on the screen of my life, middle of your chin. And I am completely free. And I'm all right right now. And it's always right now. Middle finger. And I have always completely known that this is not true. Even though at times I've got lost in it, basically lost my mind. Side of the face. And I will always know that I am free, that I am safe, that all is well here and now. And I always am under the collarbone, completely all right, right now. And it's always right now. And everything is happening for me. Every person, every circumstance is there for me. Keep tapping. Now, Alice, I'm just going to tune in before I go any further. Tell me what your number is now. I really want you to try to bring that fear up. What's your number?
7.
7. Okay. What about you, Donna?
I was going to say 7,
About a
8.
7. Okay. So really tune in to what is, and if I was working with you personally, I would have more information to work on so I could language things more specifically to what you're going through. But really tune into what that 7 is right now. And just tap on the side of your hand. I want to be even better at letting go and knowing the truth that I'm all right now. I want to be even better at knowing that I don't have to hold on to this fear, this story under the nose, and I will be even better at letting it go. Of knowing that I'm all right now and everything is happening right now. And this fear is a projection of past beliefs into the future. Middle of the chin, and I am completely able to see clearly and to know the truth that is within me. Middle finger. And I always have been even better at recognizing when I'm going into a story. And that story is based on all past perception. And I am whole, perfect, and complete as God created me. Side of the face at the corner of the eyes. And I will always be even better at coming back into this present moment. When I notice that I'm stepping into the fearful future, the projected future that does not exist, the past nor the future do not exist, only in what I'm projecting in my thoughts now. But it is always now, and I'm all right right now, and I always am under the collarbone, even better at being in this present holy instant, removing all of the blocks to the awareness of the presence of peace, love, harmony, wholeness. And just do this one on the back of the hand again. Yeah, sorry, not right on the back of the hand. Close your eyes, open your eyes, looking down in one direction, down in the opposite direction, making circle with your eyes in one direction, circle with your eyes in the opposite direction. Hum a little tune out loud. Count to 5 out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hum a little tune out loud. Okay. And just side of the hand one more time here. I am free. I want to know the truth. I will know the truth. I do know the truth. So underneath the nose, I will know the truth. Middle of the chin, I do know the truth. Even if it's not in my awareness right now, I'm asking for the truth to be revealed. I can be free, harmonious, at peace, fearless. Middle finger. And I simply go with the flow of life. The river does not concern itself with the waterfalls or the dam or the debris. It just flows. It flows here and now, unconcerned about the ocean ahead, the lake, just flowing here and now. Side of the face at the corner of the eyes. I want to realize that every fear is simply a rope. It's not the snake. I've only made it into a snake in my mind, but I see clearly now that it's a rope under the collarbone, and I am free, at peace, harmonious. And Alice, give me a number now.
Well, it's interesting because earlier, just before you finished, I heard 3 or 4, and then just as you stopped, I heard the number 2.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
And Donna, how about you?
I'd say 5.
5, okay.
It
And
was
so what I'm going to do, Donna, is I hope that you'll call me after our session tonight. Set up a time so that we can work together and get this 5 down to a 0. And because I know that we can, once I can have a little bit more information around how that's rooted, and so that we can do a greater investigation. And in the meantime, just do some of Byron Katie's YouTube videos and see how she does that investigative process to help you to really get at what the underlying fear, right, a false event appearing real, is trying to convince you that it is real. And everything is working together for your good. And so if all that you could lose is your life, now, if there's still a fear around losing your life, then that's what we could work around, right? You losing, I'm not saying you, I meant the universal you. You know, whether it's you or even somebody else that we know, nobody can lose their life. Nobody can lose their life. Their life is not their body. They're the holy expression, perfect, whole, and complete of God, only clouded by human perception, which is ego. And all fear is rooted in ego. Fear of losing something. And but for you, Alice, at that too, and even I know you that number 2 came into your mind, and so I really would like you to go into that fear that you gave a 10, an unhesitating 10 to, and see whether you can really feel any fear at all around that at this point.
Yes.
More than a 2?
I think probably the 3 to 4. I think if
Okay.
I continued this, I think I could probably get it down to a 0, but I'm not.
Okay, so
no.
let's work on that together, and it'll be a fun experience for me. So I hope you'll give me that opportunity to fine tune, because I've just recently started incorporating part of the Byron Katie technique into tapping. And so I would be grateful for the opportunity to expand that further with the 2 of you. And but even to have taken a fear out of 10 down to a 5, 50%. Now, it's really the only goal is forgiveness. So forgiving ourselves for holding on to erroneous beliefs, right? And so 50% forgiveness really isn't going to cut it. It needs to be 100% forgiveness. And so hopefully we can get to that point where we are forgiving the untruths that we're telling ourselves, right? Telling ourselves about ourselves or others.
You know, Fern, when you say the untruths, as I was going through the tapping and I would start releasing it, I could feel it going. And literally, I think it was like you say, the cortisol fix or something, because all of a sudden I would get a thought and say, oh no, but it's true. But it really is true. And I would catch myself. So I think that's why I kept it at a 5, because I wouldn't allow myself to think this is an untruth.
Well, and that's okay, right? It's okay for you to say that it's true. It doesn't have to be untrue. And so, like, let's just say, is this true? Well, yes. But so if it's a thought and you're saying that it's true, then who are you, right? And how does it affect you to hold on to that belief? Fear. What's it blocking you from doing? Right? Who would you be? Because then when you ask the question, who would you be and what would you be doing without that fear? Then you might be able to get at the real fear. You might not have reached the real fear yet.
So there are layers.
Well, there very well could be layers, yes. And so this is an investigative process. And sometimes it can take, when you're doing the process, as Byron's, doing the work, as she calls it, this inquiry into the thought, as the deeper that you get into the inquiry, sometimes you get at the bottom of it. And sometimes it's losing control, not having control over something. And we don't have control over anything.
You're
And
saying
so
that can be the fear?
That can be the fear, but you'll know, and you'll know it because when that other thought comes into your mind, then that's the unconscious bringing something else, or maybe it's even the ego trying to keep you trapped in that fear. It can be anything, But just be very aware of what those thoughts are. Write them down if it's different than the original one that you started with, and then do the work on that thought. You absolutely need to do the work on each fearful thought. So when we're doing this, it's more of an umbrella. There might be several fears all worked into this. And it's much better if you can take one of them at a time and really dissect it. And it's okay if you say it's true, but if you're going to hold on to that, how is that affecting your life? And who would you be without it?
Yeah.
Right? What would your life look like? How would the other people around you be affected if you weren't holding on to that fear? And so you're giving yourself some reasons to let go of it and recognizing eventually that it is just a rope.
All right.
But while it's a snake until you see that it's a rope.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. That's why it has to be 100% forgiveness. It can't be half snake and half rope. It's one or the other.
Right.
And so, and that forgiving, or just forgiving our past perceptions, right? Because we're projecting them into the future. But we're all right now. And all fear is projected fear. It's not happening right now. In fact, she tells us a story. She had an interview with a woman, and the woman, I can't remember if the woman herself that she was interviewing had somebody pull a gun on her. But Katie said, well, that actually happened to me. She said, come up to me and said, I'm going to shoot your blank head off. And she said, I didn't go into the logical thought, not logical, she didn't use that word, the next typical, that wasn't even her word, but I'm paraphrasing here. I didn't go into the next thought of seeing him pull the trigger. She said, I was just with what was happening in the moment. And I looked into his eyes, and in my mind, I said, don't do that to yourself, honey, because we're one, not two. Not millions. We're one. And so he couldn't take her life. She knew he couldn't take her life, even if he killed her. She wasn't her body. We're the consciousness that never dies, was never born. And really, the only reason for being here is to know that there is nothing to fear, that it's all love, and everything is happening for you, and you're always all right now. And that no one is the enemy. Everyone is a gift. Everything and everyone that shows up in your life is to help you to awaken to the truth of who you are as perfection, love, and light. Simply the hole in the flute that the Christ breath breathes through. And that's all we really need to do. You need do no thing. In fact, there's nothing that we can do. We only think that we know. But when we're guided by that Holy Spirit, that voice within, that's all we ever need. But we go into that next fearful thought. We see the trigger being pulled.
Right.
We project that. She didn't project it. She stayed in love.
And we go there many times.
Many times in a minute.
Over and over. And then after the one is left, we replay it over and over. What if, what if, what if?
What if? And it's just catching yourself, watching your mind like a hawk. And the more you practice it, the freer you are. And you then over time, when you're not being dictated by the hormones of stress. So the more that you tap away the stress. And that's one of the things to do. The minute that you go into a stressful thought, just bring yourself back to the present moment. Take a deep breath, come back into the present moment. The more you do that, and the less that you're stepping into that pattern of stress, then the cells reproduce really quickly, and they reproduce then with less receptors for cortisol. So you're going to get less triggers. That's talking from a purely physical perspective, and who knows if any of that's true, right? If we're not a body. But it's true if we believe it is.
Right, right. Oh my gosh, this was very interesting. I have a lot of notes. And we have the recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Fern.
much.
Yeah, that was wonderful. And again, it just, I always love when I hear the information I know, but stated differently, so it's always so rewarding for me. And to keep our to honor our the tradition of Rays of Healing, I'd like to say a closing prayer, and that way the people, bless you, that anybody that will be listening to this gets the benefit of the prayer too. So very gently close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and exhale. Dear Mother, Father God, divine, infinite spirit, source of all that is, we thank you so much for the teachers that you bring us, for them and imparting and sharing their wisdom and the wisdom of their teachers. We thank you for the productive hour and a half that Fern Wolf has spent with Donna and I, and with all the people that might be seeing this in the future. We thank you for the assistance of the angels, the archangels, the ascended masters, the Reiki masters, but most especially Master Jesus, Master Buddha, Master Katumi, Saint Francis, Saint Germain, Saint Gabriel, Saint Raphael, Saint Michael, the Blessed Mother, the Divine Feminine, Mary Magdalene, Moses, Metatron, Melchizedek, Mohammed, and Kuan Yin. We ask to be cleared, centered, aligned, balanced, and grounded, and that whatever comes in for us as a result of these teachings comes in for our highest good. We also thank Metatron and his healing angels, the Elohim, the creator gods, the archangels of the creator gods, and the ascended masters of the creator gods. We thank all of this in the name of Jesus the Christ and in the name of I am. Amen. Namaste.
Amen. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's truly wonderful. Thank you. Really, really appreciate it.
Beautiful to be with you both.
And thank you for the double round of tapping, because that immediately showed me how effective it was in lowering the numbers. So I thought that was amazing, to tell you.
I'll send you both. I'll send it to you, Don. I think I have your email, Alice. I'm not sure, but so if you don't get it from me, then just ask Donna to forward it. I'll send you a little instruction sheet of similar to what we just did there, maybe a little bit more extended, but you could carry on working with that tapping sequence that I will send you in a PDF. And with whatever it is that you are working with, and possibly applying it a little bit more deeply as things come up, as your awareness allows you to see more clearly of what is triggering that fear, what is really behind it, and maybe even why the ego, not that we need to know why the ego wants it, the ego just doesn't want you to, its only survival is if you don't see the reality of who you are as pure spirit.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
Because if you do, that's death. The ego presumes it will be killed, so,
Yes.
and it can't tolerate that. So,
And it keeps saying, it's a snake, it's a snake.
That's right.
well, have
Exciting.
blessings to you and have a great rest of the week. And thank you so much for being.
Thank you both.
Yes, I look forward to continuing with this. Thanks. Good night.
Thank you. Night, night.